So that was 5 years ago, and I've only just managed to get back to Bali back in December, because obviously we were locked down. And now finally here, moved here in December, and hopefully here indefinitely. So to give you a bit of a, move that over, to give you a bit of an insight into my industry career. So I kind of started out as a student back in 2008. So I didn't, when I was at school, I had no idea what I wanted to be, didn't know what my career was going to be. Everyone wanted to be going into finance, they all wanted to go to university. I had absolutely no interest in going to university, I'm not particularly academic. And I was like, right, what am I good at? Shopping. That was my kind of main decider that I wanted to get into the fashion industry. So in London, there was a brand new academy that opened called the Fashion Retail Academy, and essentially you could learn how to start your career in the fashion world. So I started out there back in 2008. I studied there for 2 years, and then slowly kind of got a bit of experience, started working at my local shop called River Island, which is quite a big UK brand, on the high street, and I was doing everything on the shop floor, and this is kind of where I really got a good insight into the world of fashion, into the world of retail, and what it actually took to drive a business, basically. So I stayed there actually for quite a long time, so 3 or 4 years, just doing sales on the shop floor. I've got a friend, and doing some visual merchandising as well on the shop floor. And then at the same time, I was doing internships. So back then, you could intern for free, and companies didn't have to pay you. So I actually interned for about 2 years, completely for free. Didn't get any money from that, but I did get lots of experience. Obviously now that's more or less forbidden, but I interned in a few different places, and actually when I first started out I thought I wanted to go into PR. I thought my career was actually going to be in PR. I started interning at New Look and Miss 60 in their PR teams, and thought it was great fun because they were all going to events every night, they were going out for drinks, they were working with celebrities, and I was like, this sounds like the dream life. So I got a few more internships under my belt at Arcadia, so the Brighton Topshop, Miss Selfridge, and then also an agency called HPR London. So they had loads of different clients, Paul & Joe, and loads of big fashion brands. And again, I was like, I really want to go into PR. This sounds like a great, perfect career for me. I loved going out at the time. I was 18 years old. But when you're 18 and you're trying to get an actual serious job, no one was really taking me that seriously to manage their big accounts, for example. So I didn't end up going into PR, and I ended up getting a job in buying, and moved over to, there's a big supermarket brand in the UK called Tesco's, and very quickly got a job at Tesco's as a buyer's admin assistant. At the time, I was doing some temping work for Tesco's, and actually they wouldn't hire me as a full-time employee because I didn't have a degree. So I had to move on quite quickly, and I managed to get a job at Ralph Lauren, and I was there for about 4 years, worked my way up, and was like, right, great, I've got this buying career sorted, I'm going to be working for these premium luxury brands. Stayed at Ralph Lauren for quite a while, but then I was like, oh, I've just been working since I was 16 years old, there must be more to life. And then I decided to go travelling, and then my life kind of changed. So I went travelling when I was 21, came to Southeast Asia, went over to Australia, spent about 8 months travelling around this side of the world. Left my job and was like, no, this isn't what I want to do, I just want to go travel, go and experience things. I hadn't been to university, I didn't really have any life experience, so just went travelling. And then luckily, as soon as I came back, actually Ralph Lauren offered me my job straight back, so that was a win. But still had a travel bug, and decided that I wanted to move abroad again. So Italy, Diesel came calling, and they said, actually, we've got a buyer job in Italy. So I moved over there for a year and a half. Again, as I said, I couldn't speak Italian, so that was quite challenging in a room full of Italian-speaking business language that I didn't understand. But it was a great experience, had a lovely year and a half there, but actually my life was back in the UK. So managed to find a job over at Kate Spade as a buyer, and worked with them on and off for 3 years. So I was working between London and New York, which was like my favourite job ever. And then eventually kind of decided that actually Kate Spade was being bought over by a new company, so they got bought by Coach, and everything changed. So as soon as that changed, I decided I need to make a change, so I moved over to Burberry, where I was a buying manager for a £380 million department. But I don't know if anyone knows what a buyer actually does for a fashion brand, if anyone's got any experience with that. No? So buying essentially is the main function in a retail business that allows the product to actually get to the shop floor. So without the buying team, you'd have no product to be purchased by the customer. So I was working on buying teams to essentially decide what product assortment went into the stores. Every brand works so differently, and there's two different types of buyer that you can get in a fashion brand. You can kind of get a more creative buyer, or you can get a more strategic buyer. Creative buyers, they work very much from concept to shop floor, so that would be coming up with the idea for the designs, doing the designs with the design team, developing and sourcing that product, and then actually managing it all through until it actually gets to the shop floor. And then the more strategic side, which is the side that I worked on, that is more kind of not very much numbers focused. So you're looking at analytics, you're looking at what's selling, you're not really looking at trends, you're more focusing on what's the most commercial option for the customer, what are they actually going to be buying into, and then trading that business and making sure that the customer actually buys the product when it gets to the shop floor. So I built this massive career in buying and worked for some massive brands, and it was amazing, loved it, but at some point between kind of Diesel and Burberry, very much decided that corporate life wasn't for me. Didn't really know. Obviously, as I said, back in 2017, came to Bali, kind of got a feel for entrepreneurship and what that meant, but didn't really know what I was going to do to actually get myself into entrepreneurship. So when I got to about end of 2019, just before the pandemic, and my contract at Burberry was actually ending, so I decided to go travelling again. But then unfortunately, pandemic hit, couldn't go anywhere, got stuck in the UK for however long. So I had to start a business because I didn't have a job. I quit Burberry, and I couldn't go travelling. I was just sat in my flat in London, not really knowing what to do. So I was like, right, I'll start a business. Didn't really know what it was going to look like, but I'd had a bit of an idea for like a consultancy business over the past couple of years. So probably from when I was working at Diesel to when I was working at Kate Spade, I'd had a few ideas. When I worked for Kate Spade, it was very much like a start-up environment. They were massive in America, but when they were coming over to Europe, I was in that founding team. So one of the first employees in their head office in the UK, which was then going to build the Kate Spade business as it is today in Europe. So I kind of got a feel for like what working in a startup was like. And very much was like, that is me. I want to be part of these fast-paced teams where you're getting involved in everything. You're not kind of working up this one career ladder, you're kind of zigzagging along. And then I just realised that I needed to start my own business. So leaving Burberry, obviously got locked down and was in the pandemic, but actually it was quite a good boost that I needed to then actually go on to starting my own business. So I started a retail consultancy business called Buyers Collective. These are some of the clients that I've worked with over the past 2 years. Essentially, Buyers Collective actually started out as a student career services business because I was like, what can I do? What transferable skills do I have? I knew that I was quite good at recruitment because I'd been recruiting teams in my jobs at Burberry and Kate Spade. So I was like, maybe I can write some CVs for students and help them get into jobs in the fashion industry. I know this industry inside out. What can I do? So I actually started out as a career support service, and then very quickly I realised that students have absolutely no money. They don't want to invest in anything, and that was not going to be my business idea that was going to make me rich. So I scrapped that within about 4 weeks, I think, and just changed my LinkedIn status one day to freelance buyer, and suddenly had about 10 emails in my inbox of people wanting to work with me, which was very fortunate. Because of the brands that I'd worked with previously. So I was very lucky because I'd worked with some massive brands within the industry, and luckily people had recognised that and then wanted me to work with them in their startup businesses. So I work now with founders and product-based business startups to help them set up and launch their businesses. Some examples of what I've done, so I've worked with Kids Life Clothing. It's a children's wear e-commerce marketplace. she came to me with an idea that she wanted all of these luxury premium brands on her platform. She had no experience in the retail industry whatsoever. She was like, I want Gucci, I want Prada, I want all of these brands. And I was like, no one knows you, so I think it's going to be a little bit unrealistic. But we worked for 4 months on building her platform. I reached out to all of the brands for her, and actually we got some massive brands on board with her business. We've got Tommy Hilfiger, Calvin Klein, Juicy Couture, and now she's got a massive online e-commerce business with all of these premium luxury brands. I've also worked on like rebranding projects with businesses and marketing development projects. Orp up there, she's about to launch an ocean plastic recycled bag business, and I've literally worked from her from day one, from when she had the idea to when it's actually going to launch in June this year. So I offered that through consultancy and mentoring services. So kind of realised whilst I was doing freelancing that actually there's more opportunity in this business than just me trading time for money as a freelancer basically. So I tried to pivot it into consultancy and mentoring, and essentially consult for businesses or train people how to do what they need to do in their businesses, and that could be from anything from product strategy to sales strategies to marketing strategies, and work with them on their business rather than me working in their business with them. More recently, kind of realised everybody had similar issues when they were first starting out their business. One of those issues being that it's actually quite lonely when you start a business. So me and a business partner that I met through a networking platform decided to start running networking events for small product-based business owners. So back in September, when I was still in London, we ran our first networking event where we got fashion founders that have had 20, 25 years experience to come and give inspirational talks to the smaller business owners, to give them some inspiration, give them something to look at and say, I want to be like you, I want to get my business to your level. And it was probably one of the biggest highlights of my career actually, seeing all of these small business owners come together, find friends. A lot of them are now working together on business collaborations. So that was a pretty special moment. And then I also have just recently launched a membership for small product-based business owners, because naturally when you are just starting out, you don't have a lot of budget, and my whole kind of brand is to be accessible for startups and make sure that they can access the resources that they need at an affordable cost, because you don't have a lot of budget when you're first starting out. So a membership was a great way to package up all of my knowledge and experience and then make it an affordable and accessible platform for people to buy into. So obviously I've worked with some massive global brands. I've also worked with very small startup brands, so often I'm working just directly with the founders. So I wanted to share with you some of the experiences that I witnessed that showing the differences between working with a global brand versus working with a startup. So obviously when you're working with global brands, you're working with multi-million pound budgets. So one of the biggest budgets that I've managed is £180 million. And we could spend that, I had free reign to spend that on whatever product that I felt like needed to come into the store. So that was when I was working with Burberry. But often these big brands, they're obviously massive machines. They have so much budget and they often spend excessively and often in the wrong ways. So for example, when I just left Burberry, they were organising an event that was going to cost them $3 million just to train all of the staff in Burberry on the new product collection. Whereas obviously if you're working in a startup, you're working with massively tiny budgets usually, so they have to be a lot more sustainable and smarter with their cash flow and how they're actually spending their money. So often you're kind of working with £5,000 to £10,000 to start your business. It's not a huge amount of money. They've just had a great idea. Maybe they've got some money from a job that they've been doing and they want to invest that in their own business to actually drive their future, because they can't see their future in their corporate jobs anymore. Often in global brands you're working with big teams. Often the big teams are duplicated workload over various different departments, and I was sat there thinking, why are we here doing all of this when you're also doing the same job as me? Whereas when you're working with a startup, you're working with very small teams and every single person in that team counts, which is obviously a really nice atmosphere to kind of go into. You obviously don't see the direct results of your action in a big brand, whereas if you are in a startup, you can see the results from your actions more or less straight away, which is a really nice feeling to have. there's a lot of office politics and closed minds in corporate buying world as well. You see that, and unfortunately that's actually one of the reasons that I left, made my final decision to leave that world, because I'm not a corporate person. I can't bear politics, and actually I kind of rebelled against the politics quite often, which would get me in trouble quite a lot of the time. And I've got a very open mind, so generally working my way up this career ladder, I felt like that was my role to do, and that was the societal norm to do, but I wanted more. I've had an entrepreneurial mindset. I wanted to work with other people that had entrepreneurial mindsets, and that is definitely something that you see with working with startup brands. As I just said, you kind of have this one route up a corporate ladder as well, so it's particularly in buying, you kind of go from buyer's admin assistant, where you're doing all of the admin, you're running around after people, managing samples, you go up to assistant buyer, and you're kind of maybe managing a certain category or a product department in that department that you're working in. Then you go up to buyer and you're managing a team, and then you're the decision maker when you get to head of buying manager, and that's kind of where I got to. And I was like, where's next? Where can I go? I don't want to be this head of buying. I was 28 years old. I didn't want to be managing massive teams of people, which is what I was doing. And actually I wanted to kind of do more than just this one linear career path. I wanted to do all of the jobs. I wanted to get experience in other areas. So in startups, you are very much wearing all of the hats. You're doing the sales, you're doing the product, you're doing the marketing, and there's a lot of learning. So everything, more or less, is a learning journey. And if you don't know it, there's a way to find out. There's YouTube videos, there's courses, there's people like myself to help business owners learn. So I think that's the really nice thing about startups, is that you're not just doing one thing, you're doing everything, which, don't get me wrong, can sometimes be very overwhelming, but it's a really nice way to actually get involved in every aspect and area of your business. In global brands, there's a lot of decision makers, and you never make decisions because there's too many stakeholders. So we were talking about this just before, and actually a lot of brands, they make decisions based on their share price. So particularly with Burberry, every decision that I made in that business made sales at one point, and we didn't want to go over those sales because that means our share price is going to go up or down. So we had to actually pull product off the shop floor to stop people buying it, so that we didn't go over our sales targets, because then that changes the value of the business, and that changes everything, the plan for the next 5 to 6 months. So you have to obviously take into consideration a much bigger picture when you're working with global brands. There's a lot more things to consider, and a lot more people to get those decisions made. So even though I was the head of a team, I still had to go to like the director, then the head of the vice president, and then the managing directors. So you'd never get anything signed off particularly easily. But then when you're working with startups, you're generally just working with one person, so the founder usually, or their retail director, so you can make decisions very quickly. And it takes a long time to sign anything off. It means you can't really react to the opportunities that are coming into your business, which obviously as a startup you need to be really nimble and react very quickly to actually make your business grow. So there's 2 things I believe that you need to actually start a business. So I think the main point of, obviously I wanted to make this, tell you about my experience in the fashion industry, but also turn this into, if you are working in a job that you think at some point one day you want to start your own business. I also wanted to tell you a bit about my journey from going from working in a corporate environment to actually starting my own thing. So I believe, and I talk about this with a lot of my clients, that there's 2 things you need to start a business. One is the passion to actually do what you want to do, and also the perseverance, because it's a very up and down journey. It can be quite challenging. So you need the perseverance to persevere through any of the challenges that you may face along the way. And if you've got those 2 things, I believe you can kind of tackle anything that you come up to. So if you were thinking about starting a business from a corporate job that you've got currently, there's a few things to help you identify your transferable skills. And I didn't see this when I was in this corporate world. You're so sucked into what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. I was like, what am I going to do in a business? I have absolutely no transferable skills. I'm a buyer. I know numbers. That's about it. What else can I do? And that's really where you have to start thinking, actually, you have so many skills in the job that you're doing right now that you can transfer into other positions, other jobs, or your own business. And there's a few questions, if that's you and you're thinking about starting your own thing, I would encourage you to kind of start thinking about some of these questions to see what could be your business, what could be your transferable skills that you can take on to whatever it is that you go and do next. So things like, what is your favourite thing about your job? My favourite thing about my job was relationship building. I loved people, and I got to speak to pretty much every department in these businesses that I was working with, so I knew that I wanted to involve people and relationship building into whatever I did next, which naturally that's my whole job now, is just talking to people every day. What are you great at in your job now? So again, something that you don't even think about that you're that great at, but actually you do it every day and you're a master, you're an expert in that field. Mine was building strategies. Like, I was very strategic in all of the jobs that I was doing. And I was like, if I'm building strategies for Burberry, why can I not build a strategy for smaller businesses and help actually make an impact? I wasn't making, obviously, yes, I was building like big strategies for these massive corporations, but actually, what impact does that do? Like, I'm easily replaceable in these businesses when I can actually make an impact into personal people's lives and businesses if I help smaller businesses and startups. What experiences do you have that is unique? So something about your job that not everybody can go and do. And then outside of your job, what soft and hard skills do you have? Like, hard skills are kind of the things like Microsoft Excel, the things that you learn, whereas soft skills are more like your personality traits. So I love talking to people, as I've just said. I think I'm quite empathetic, so naturally for me, going into like a one-on-one with people position was very much natural for me to move into. But thinking about like what you can use that you can then transfer out and put that into place for your own business as well. And then thinking about who your business could be for, so who actually might benefit from all of the skills and experiences you have. So mine naturally was going to be startup product-based businesses, because that has been my life for the past 12 years. And I had a lot of experience and knowledge and expertise to give these people, and a lot of my clients had never ever worked in the retail industry. They don't know what profit is, they don't know how to go and source and develop their own product, and that's all something that I have the skills to do. So I knew that anybody that has a great idea for a product-based business but doesn't know how to execute it could really benefit from my skills and experience, which is then what made my decision to go into what I do now. And then also, what problems you solve for these people with these skills. So again, using my business as an example, if your problem might be that you don't know, you've got a business, it's going okay, but you're not really making the sales that you actually desire to make, and you're not hitting your sales targets. So again, I can solve that. I know how to build a sales strategy. I know different sales techniques that you can use to help drive your trade. So you can think about what problems would you be achieving, because essentially most good businesses come from solving a problem of some kind. And then ultimately, how can you actually package up your skills and experiences to create it into a business? So my skills, I packaged them up into mentoring packages, I packaged it up into membership platforms. I often share quite a lot of tips and experiences that I've had through Instagram or through social media platforms. So you kind of need to think about how can you actually make money from these things. You've kind of pulled out that you have the skills and experience in, and then package those things up to actually sell it to people. So again, if you are starting a business, I've been running my business now for 2 years. It's gone through various different iterations. I've changed it a million times. There's probably going to be a million more changes. It's gone ups and downs and all around, but I've learned quite a lot in the process. So there's a few tips if you are thinking about starting something of your own. Number one, never underestimate the power of marketing. It is probably the most important thing that you can do for your business. If people don't know about you, they can't buy from you. So talk about your product or service over and over again until the message gets through. Always capitalise on opportunities as and when they come up. So one thing that's helped me drive my business forward is that whenever an opportunity came up to do something, I jumped on it and I took it. I didn't even think about it if it felt right. So for example, when I first started my business, I got approached by a retail company that wanted to work with me. And at the time I was like, I don't want to work for another business, but if I needed to gain a little bit more experience in that area that they were offering me a job in, so I just jumped on that, and actually that then led me to have 5 new clients in my mentoring business from that one opportunity. So even if it doesn't feel like it's the right thing for you to do at that time, you never really know what opportunities are going to come off of the back of that one thing that you did. So I'd always say try and be open-minded to anything that comes your way and see if you can see what the benefit could be in that in the long term. Don't try to do everything by yourself. So as I said, starting a business is very lonely sometimes, but it's also just overwhelming. You're trying to wear all the hats. As I said, you're doing the marketing, you're doing the sales, you're running the business, you're working in the business, you're working on clients' businesses. It's a lot. So very quickly I realised if I was going to be able to actually manage this workload and grow and scale my business, I was going to have to outsource. So within about 6 months I was outsourcing social media help, for example, so thinking about the things that you don't really need to do. Obviously I'm the face of my business, I'm the face of my brand, I have to deliver the services, but I don't need to be doing the social media, I don't need to be doing ads, I don't need to be writing all of my emails, that kind of thing. So I had help from very early on, and that has enabled me to grow it to where it is at the moment. Go backwards. And then working on your business is just as important as working in it. So there's always going to be times that you have to work in your business on projects and whatever else it is that you're going to be working on. But actually you also need to think about the top line picture and where you see your business going and the goals that you have for that business, because ultimately what you do today, you'll see the results from in 3 months' time, but you also want to know what are you going to be doing in 3 months' time, where do you see your business going, and having a bit of a plan of action and something to work towards in your business as well. So spending some time to work on your business is just as important as working in it. And then setting and sticking to boundaries is also super important. So when I first started, I was taking on all these projects, I was exhausted, I suffered 3 burnouts in about 6 months. Just because I was like in a little hamster wheel, I didn't know how to get out of it, and I just wanted to make this work because I didn't have anything else. But actually, if I had set my boundaries straight away, I wouldn't have had those burnouts. I would have been more productive, I would have had a better mindset, and I wouldn't have got into this little rabbit hole of just not knowing what was going on. So you have to stick to boundaries straight away and kind of set your boundaries, because you don't have that anymore. When you work a 9-to-5 job, you obviously have to get there for 9, you can leave at 5, and then you can do whatever else after that. But when you're working for yourself, and this is something I've struggled with since I've come to Bali, but you have to set your boundaries, you have to know when to say no to things, you have to think about your schedule for the week, because no one's going to tell you what to do anymore. So you have to have the boundaries and stick to them, because otherwise it gets a little bit overwhelming. Consistency is key, so showing up for your business consistently is key, marketing your business is key, selling for your businesses consistently is key. So everything that you do has to be done repetitively for you to actually see the results of the actions that you're taking. And then having a strategy is great, but be prepared to pivot it a lot. So there's all sorts of things that when you have a business that could crop up unexpectedly or expectedly. And yes, you might have a strategy for one thing, but it's really important to know when actually this isn't working anymore and I need to pivot this in another direction. If I'm honest, this is the stage that I'm at right now in my business. I'm at a stage where it's got to a certain point and I'm like, that was great and I had a strategy for this, and now I just want to pivot it and take it in a slightly different direction, and that's okay. It's just about knowing how to do that and when to do that, and it's all about timing really. So to kind of conclude, I'd always kind of say that opportunities don't come to you. You have to go out and get them or create them. And I say that because I think a lot of people will have an idea, they'll sit on the idea and they'll be like, oh yeah, I'll do it one day. I want to start a business, but now's not the best time. Ultimately, unless you put the work in and you just make that decision and you take the actions, nothing's ever going to come to you naturally. So you have to make a conscious decision to go out and actually build that business and create something for yourself. So take the opportunities as they come and go out and get it if that is something that you want. So yeah, thank you for listening. I hope that was interesting. But yeah, if anyone's got any questions, please feel free to ask anything. And you can also follow me on Instagram @BuyersCollective, or connect with me on LinkedIn if you're on that platform as well. But yeah, that's
So what's kind of a common strategy across, obviously there's different products that maybe you're consulting on, but what's a common thing that you see with founders that they really feel lost with? Is it creating strategy? Is it because they don't know what a strategy is? Is it because they're more creative and they maybe don't have that analytical side of things? Yeah, I just would love to know.
Yeah, definitely. I think it is mainly, if you've come up with an idea for a product-based business, generally you're a creative head and you've got a creative brain and you don't necessarily understand the numbers, or you don't understand that you need to be making profit to make your business grow, or building a strategy to actually see the results of the actions that you're taking. So I think one of the common themes is that majority of the people that I've worked with haven't really understood that kind of cash flow, the profit and loss side of things, and ultimately that's when your business gets into trouble a year down the line, because you haven't been tracking all of these things and you have to backtrack. The other thing is laying foundations in your business, so it's really easy to just run away with your idea and kind of forget that actually you need a strategy, you need a plan of how you're going to market your product, you need a plan of like how you're going to buy your product or when the next thing's going to be coming in. Or even like just a social media strategy. Like often there's no strategy, they've just kind of gone headfirst into it, which works for so long, but then you'll always get to a point that you need to then backtrack and put all of the work in that you could have done at the beginning to actually just streamline it. And I'd always use the example of you wouldn't build a house without laying the foundations first, so that's how you should also treat your business. So laying the foundations in your business, and then you'll only ever be able to grow and develop from there.
And can you just give an example of like a strategy? Like I feel like everyone's like, your strategy, but maybe just one of the businesses you've worked with, how did you help that business to form a strategy if they didn't have one at the start?
Yeah, so for an example, like so sales strategies, a lot of people don't know how to trade their business. So they'll put the product out, they'll launch it, but then they're like, well now what? Like I'm not getting the sales, I'm marketing it, I'm putting the content out there, but nothing's coming into my tills. So to actually build your sales strategy, you need to be thinking about like 3 to 6 months ahead and saying, right, okay, all of these things are coming up for me. So that could be like retail calendar events, so Black Friday, Christmas, Mother's Day, Chinese New Year, all of these different events that happen in the retail calendar, and then having a plan of what you're actually going to execute and capitalise on opportunities from based on the events that are happening. So that could be promotions, free shipping, or gift with purchases, or like donations to charities, whatever your business model might be, or even launching new products around like certain holidays, for example. So having a plan in your head rather than just launching product, not seeing any results from the stuff that you're putting out there, actually having a plan. Strategy is just a plan, or like a fancy word for a plan, but actually having a plan with what you're going to be doing with that product when it's out into the market. How are you going to trade your business? And also looking at the sales, because ultimately we were saying the data and the numbers is factual. When you have a product-based business, that is actually information that you can use to drive your business forward, and something like this factual information that you can use to make decisions and then execute those strategies. So for example, if your conversion rate is really low, it means you're not, when customers are coming onto your website, they're not actually converting into a sale. So that means you need to probably focus on like a customer journey and taking your customer from just being aware of you to becoming like a lead, and then actually making that conversion purchase with you. So you might want to think about a conversion strategy. How am I going to take that customer on a journey to actually want to make a purchase with me? So a strategy is just a plan of how you're going to execute something, basically. Okay, thank you.
I actually wanted to ask you, because you're moving quite fast from like every step of the way in your from when you started your studies to where you are now, and you pivot so quite a bit. I just wanted to know if you had a vision, like what's the thread between the two, and if you had a vision of the lifestyle you want to have, or a vision of the person you want to be, that get you through like with all the changes, that you have that idea that still be like a direction.
Yeah, definitely. I think when I wanted to earn money from when I was like 13 years old. Like I knew I didn't want to be in education. People are not often surprised by this, but I'm not very academic, but I am quite like savvy and commercially minded. And literally I was 13 years old and I was like, Mum, what job can I do? And she was like, literally nothing, you're not allowed legally to work. So I could have got paper round, but that wasn't really for me. So I had to wait until I was 16 to actually earn money. So even from when I was like 13, I was thinking, I know I need to earn this money. I want to be earning money. I don't care. Well, not that I don't care, but I didn't want to be in education. Wasn't for me. Because my learning style is very much doing. So I'm a kinesthetic learner, which only about 5% of the population are kinesthetic learners. Everybody else is kind of a visual or auditory learner. And I wasn't. I needed to be learning by doing rather than sitting in lectures and absorbing information. That just isn't how I absorb information. So I knew that learning wasn't the route that I wanted to go down. I wanted to get into a career that I could learn and do as I went along. And to be honest, I fell into most of my jobs. Like Ralph Lauren, I didn't plan to be a buyer. As I said, I wanted to go into PR, but I always knew that I wanted a well-paid job to live a certain quality of life. And when I went travelling when I was 21, I realised that travel needed to be a big part of my life as well, and I needed to be earning a certain amount of money to allow that travel to happen as well. So I always kind of strived. I knew that, as I said, fashion was probably the industry that I wanted to be in, but I didn't really know what that career path was going to look like. But as I kind of said, opportunities just kept coming to me, luckily, and I think that was luckily because of the brands that I had worked with. So I only applied out of all of those jobs, I only applied for one of those jobs. All of the other jobs came to me and I managed to secure those jobs, luckily. But I know that's quite a fortunate position to kind of be in. So I just rolled with it a little bit, and then ultimately, as I said, when I got about 4 years ago when I came to Bali, that's when I was like, oh, there's more to life than just working a 9 to 5. I want to be that person in the cafe on the laptop. And that's when I started to see this new vision, didn't want the linear career path anymore, and strived to be that person that was working on the laptop however I needed to get there, and then somehow kind of ended up here. But I think I progressed quite quickly because I was always looking for more. As soon as I stopped learning, I didn't want to do it anymore. I needed to keep learning throughout my career for it to be interesting to me. So whenever something wasn't beneficial to me anymore, I kind of moved on to the next thing.
Thank you so much.
No worries, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. It's super inspiring. Our next speaker is equally inspiring woman. We're going to welcome Marina, who's been trying to run away from this place, but she's actually very inspiring. And she's been juggling motherhoods, 2 young girls with a busy career. And keeping a relationship in Bali is not also easy. You're doing it very well. So I think she's a superwoman, and I don't know why she's a bit nervous, but because she's really inspiring, but you'll find out. And Marina is the founder of Edit by Marina, which is a clothing line. She's wearing one of her collection today. And for her presentation, we're going to do a different style. We're going to do Q&A straight away. So you feel free to ask her anything. She's going to do a little introduction, and then you can move on to ask her any questions you want. So please welcome Marina.
First of all, I just want to say thank you to Hasina, and also not thank you, Hasina. Because, and second of all, I'm not really used to talk in public. I actually do not like it at all. My background is basically almost similar to Sophie, and I couldn't agree more to what she said earlier. There's a lot of things in there, and it's that actually it's happening a lot of business just in general, and consistency is so important. But and also just reminds me that Sophie is also the same. I wasn't graduate from any particular university. I'm also not very academic. You know, I rather learn by actually doing it. You know, rather than sitting there with a book and looking at the person, and it's just not my. I get bored very easy. So, but a little background. I actually born in Jakarta. So, and when the age of 20, and I moved to Australia for just sort of like English course, and I actually stuck there and I met my partner over there. This is back in the days, and so I get work. I work in a cafe for a long time, and after that, I sort of think I need to do something more. I want to go into like office work, you know, because I've been working in a hospital for so long, so I need to do something with my career. And so I applied so many jobs. I think I sent hundreds, but I have no, because I graduated from Jakarta, and so when I bring my resume, they don't recognize any of the education I have anyway. So I thought that's fine. I will start from receptionist. I was kind of like get this particular job that you're supposed to fit 10 cats, because this company is actually just at home and they have like 10 and 2 dogs, and I didn't even get that job. So I was really frustrated, but I keep continuing because I know that I have to do this. And somehow this is what I realized about life too. Sometimes when things doesn't happen for you, I think better things might happen that is meant to be for you. So I actually work, finally able to work as a receptionist in one of the corporate company, Kyocera. It was a photocopier company. And then while I'm there, every time they said, oh, you know, the service admin lady is not here, I always put my hands up. Okay, I'll do it. So I just like to learn, and I just soak any information as possible that I could get so that I can get to the next step. Just like Sophie, I moved quite quickly once I learned, because at that time I'm also already start quite late, you know, like probably at the age of 25. So I just started working in reception, and I go to administration. And then one day, I don't know if anyone here from Australia? Oh, yeah, and one day there is this advertising for product manager for Super Raymond Furniture. That was in Brisbane, and I was thinking, and I applied, and my partner back then said, are you crazy? It's like, you're at the moment as a receptionist, this is a product manager, you know, basically buyer, you know, like even more than that. So I thought, you know, well, I have nothing to lose. I get a call, and I get an interview. So I go there. I went to Google University. I checked what is product manager, and I just sort of like, and I thought, okay. And I go to the interview. Obviously, I didn't get the job, but you know, they see that this girl is crazy enough to. It's like, you have no qualification whatsoever. So they said, oh, you know what? Why don't I open associate buyer for you for our accessories category? So it's like pillow, and then that's when I learned to do buying, which is what Sophie did as well. And to be honest with you, I never know what buying is before. And now that it's one of the jobs that I love the most. It's actually it's numbers, which I love. I love sitting there just doing analysis, and I can sit in front of Excel spreadsheet all day rather than talking to people. I'm completely the opposite. So it's perfect for me. And then there's travel, obviously, as a buyer. You do a lot of travel. Every 3 months I go to China, Malaysia. I'm doing Super Ahmad, by the way, is one of the biggest leading discount furniture. They're massive, and and so you got big budget, like you buy 2 million just on cushion and before decorating. So I learned all the rope over there, and I stayed there for quite a lot, and for quite a while, and I learned a lot of things from there. And at the end, I was thinking, I really like to be in fashion, you know, just, you know what, because I always passionate about clothing. So I thought, okay, let's just, if I want to do, because at the time I was in Brisbane, if I want to do all these big fashion, big brand, I have to go to Sydney, which is, you know, it's more a bigger city and everything else. A lot of like a head office for all the big brand out there. So I go there and I managed to get a job with Oroton, which is one of the iconic brands in Australia. And I secure a role as a national wholesale manager. So I was there basically dealing with all the big department store and other clients that they have. And just to, and the same thing like my first job, when the, back then the e-commerce sort of just started. The e-commerce lady was kind of like, basically quit, resigned. And then they said, oh, you know, we need to find someone. And I said, I'll put my hand up, okay, I'll do that job as well. And people was like, what are you doing? You get paid the same, you do 2 people job, you know, like, and I said, it's okay, because this is like going to uni but get paid, because I get to learn, and I don't mind coming 7 a.m., go home 7 p.m. At that time, the one thing in my mind, I just want to get a career, so I'll just do it anyway. So I learned about the back end, about all the online e-commerce and all that stuff. And again, I think like I observed a lot of things from that company, and I thought, okay, it would be good. This is Sydney. It would be good if I get a job with Gucci. So, there's an opening, so I apply, and I actually get the job with Gucci Group, basically taking care of Bottega Veneta, which at that time was part of Gucci Group, as their operation manager, so taking care of all the store. And as I mentioned before, I'm a person who, I love people, don't get me wrong, but I love to be able to just do numbers and things rather than managing people. As it turns out, I'm like, oh my God, managing people is just so, it's so difficult, but you grow, you learn so much, because you need to see each person have a different motivation. So you need to understand that you cannot ask the other person to do something with the same motivation to the A and B, because they're all different. Some like to have compliments, some likes to have more tasks or responsibilities. It's all different. But our store was #1, and it was like going really well. So Bottega opening more stores, and the discount was amazing at Gucci, and then it was just 75% for staff. And that's not Gucci. It's got, because it's Gucci Group, so it's got YSL, it was got Givenchy, and all the rest of it was included in one. So that was just amazing. And then I met my partner, which now is currently my husband, my partner. And I thought, okay, oh no, sorry. Before that, I moved back again to do buying for a company that's sourcing things for Bunnings warehouse. You know, like it's almost Aldi, and it's a big retailer, and we do sourcing for them. So, because I know that in Gucci with managing people, it's really not my thing. It's just so hard to deal with people rather than numbers which tell you exactly what things are, and it's just sort of almost black and white. You can analyze things, they tell you, you have to discount this one, you have to get rid of this one. Numbers tells you things. So it to me, a little bit more straightforward than dealing with human being. It's just not my strength. And in Gucci as well, this is true. I'm sure you probably already watched The Devil Wears Prada. And every Monday we have a meeting with Helen Koo, which is the director of Asia Pacific, not just Australia, for Gucci Group. So she's a nice lady, but still, you go in and she'll be looking at you up and down, and you'll be like, ordering the wrong one, or is it, you know, like it's kind of similar. So, and every night I'm probably crying, not because of it, it's just so much pressure working in corporate and the politics, like we mentioned before, and it's just too hard. It's just, I thought, oh, seriously, I had enough. I have to start doing my own thing. So when I met my partner, I thought, I get money saved up, and it's like, oh, well, he's working in nightclub, #3 in the world, and so, and he said, yeah, he's had enough with all the nightlife and all the rest of it too, so he said, let's just open a business. So we opened a cafe and restaurant, which was doing really well in Sydney. We have about 300, 400 people going in every morning just from 6 a.m. to 11. And so, but then we have the 2 kids in Australia with no help and a business. So I said, This is difficult. And then we go to Bali in 2017 for a holiday only for 1 month. And then I met my parents again, my family is there, my auntie, we all met in Bali, and it's so good. And then there is nanny, and it's just like, this is amazing. After that, we go back to Australia for 1 month holiday, and I said to Rob, my partner, I said, I cannot live like this, I have to go to Bali, I need to, it was really good to have help, and and I'm able to be able to focus for what I'm doing. I'm not so burned out and exhausted, so we see what is turned out. So then he said, oh, well, okay, so we sold the business and then moved to Bali. When I come to Bali, we open a cafe, but then my heart is already not in it. Hospitality, I just kind of like done. And especially Bali is really different. Obviously, I was underestimating a little bit how different it is. But when we have a cafe in Sydney, obviously, there's a lot of routine. So our cafe was near, we just picked the right location, which is near a train station. Then I know my sales Monday to Friday. And what Saturday, what Sunday. Because people going in every morning, the same, I know who didn't go to work that day. So the sales is so predictable. And you just put it in the right location. People's there is probably up and down by a little bit, but I know what money is coming in because it's just, it's clear. But Bali is completely different. Not many people have routine. They have their motorbike, they go whichever they feel like going, so it's completely, totally different. And and it was a little bit more challenging than I thought. And also my heart already not in hospitality. I think it's just quite exhausting for me. So so our contract was only 2 years. So he said, "Do you want to continue the cafe?" And I said, "Oh no, I don't think so." Then and this is start just not long ago, just before COVID. So I'm already 44 or 45 years old then. So I'm 45 years old. And I just changed. I said, I want to start a new business. So, I think in my mind, it's just never too late to start whatever it is you want to start. If you don't know exactly what you want to do it's okay. You will find. You just keep searching for it, and then you'll find something you like. And it's not the end. It's about the journey. It's not about the end result. It's about the journey. So it's about the learning, the whole thing. I think that's what life is about. So I start my new business Edit by Marina, and that was just before pandemic. So it was a little bit difficult. And my idea was because fashion at the moment is a lot of them. I never liked this since a long time ago. So I never follow what the trend is. If anything, I do if anyone wear other things, I still wear flare pants, for example. And everyone will looking like like, oh my God, it was like, are you in the 90s? But I think to me, we have been brainwashed so much with the fast fashion that says, oh, you gotta buy this week. Oh, now you gotta throw that, you gotta buy this one this week. And I think, like in US alone, it's like about 32 billion. 64% of that 32 billion is just gone in a landfill. It's just 1 every 2%, the clothes is just thrown pretty much straight away. So it's to me, it's like, first of all, I also want to get quality with a lower price. Because I work for Gucci and I know what quality is, and but I don't want to be high end. Because when I work for Super Mart, it's a low end prices. But to me, they're making a much more, in a way, it's more volume and more profitable and easier than the very niche product. So I thought, but it is difficult because when you buy cheap fabric, it will then look cheap. It is really hard to try to sell it for a cheaper price and getting a cheap fabric or anything and make it look really good. It's actually quite difficult. So there is a challenge there, and I understand then why is it not so many happening that way, you know. So, so I thought, you know, like, I like to do, that's the first thing. I want to be able to sell affordable clothing with good quality, and also most of them natural fabric, just to be able to contribute to the, you know, the conscious fashion, what they're talking about these days. But, you know, it's better to be in it than completely ignore it. You know, at the you know, moving forward, that's what's going to happen anyway. So you better start now. And also, the thing is, you know, like I mentioned before, you do not need to be being told of what to wear. What is this season? You know, you have to have your own identity. This is me. This is how I wear my clothes, and you know, this is what I like. This is what I'm comfortable with. And what my product is, it's basically seasonless. So you can wear this year, next year, any, you know. And then the other thing is also a little bit more versatile, which is, yeah, you can wear this with sneakers, and then you go to just, and then you can wear it with high heel and a little bit of clutch. Then you can go for, you know, like dinner or something. So I like to make something that you can wear it both ways, just to, you know, just to eliminate, you know, purchasing or over-consumption of buying clothes. And the other thing is, behind all these things, my dream, that drive all this is actually to have a manufacturer where I can empower women. When I first moved to Bali, what I find is, especially in a women area, when they're become a nanny or they're a helper, they think that's it. This is just who I am. This is just what I have to accept. But what my dream is to have a workshop manufacturer for Edit by Marina, that where I will employ the women and having a workshop to add sort of like a skill to them, where they can actually bring that skill and make the use of it and become better at something, and you know, like independent. So that's actually the drive behind it. You know, aside from, and then I was thinking, well, if I want to do that, what do I like to do? I like fashion, you know, so then I just combine that, but the real purpose is also to just empower. I mean, in this world, you take, but you have to remember the reason you're here is to give back. So whatever it is you're having, you gotta think how to give back. So that's basically what I'm doing now. And yeah, so yeah, I think that's what my background is. So yeah.
Anyone has a question for Marina? Do you want to show me from your expression?
And I think Sophie before has talked about the structure of the business and stuff, already cover all that, and she did amazingly, which is all what she said is basically the key, and it's very important. And the word is just consistent, but seriously, it's very difficult. If you have a brand, how you speak on your Instagram, it has to show which age people you talk to, you know, even the wording you use. And all the and sometimes it's difficult to keep that consistency, you know, like even when I start buying fabric and I saw this and I was like, wait a minute, you keep changing direction, then they will not know what is your brand, how do you communicate it properly, and to actually, you know, sort of get really settled on what your brand is about. So it's, yeah, the marketing part of it has to be always consistent. Throughout the, yeah.
You said you launched in the pandemic. How did you navigate that time? Obviously, been a new brand when I assume not as Is your business online or is it? So you've got physical?
Online and also consignment. Yeah, we have. I was in Samadhi, and then now there's in Capella Ubud, and soon will be in Seminyak boat shed as well. And I was wanting to open a shop, but not at the moment. So I'll just see. And then just this year, I start shipping overseas. Before that, I was a little bit worried about the shipping cost because it's quite high, and my clothes will be just. It's like more expensive the shipping than it is, but and I found it's actually I just but the price is still cheap enough for Australia even with the shipping cost.
Yeah. And how did you navigate launching in a pandemic? Like what was that?
Yeah, I was. It was just started with just sort of the social media, and then I do. Luckily, we're in Bali as much as we closed down, but we're not really locked down as much. So that we have a women's group that we do as well, and then I do a pop-up. I do like sort of just getting the brand out there, and and slowly. And then I have most of my customer is there's a lot of expat from Bali, and also a lot of local Jakarta and Surabaya, and that mainly come from the Instagram. But this is the thing, that social media. But you just have to just keep at it. The minute you don't do anything, then you're basically gone. So people, I mean, online is just as much cost as it is to have a shop almost. Like if you really want to be on the top of Google, there is so much. And I learned some, I did my website myself. So I did all the things. So that's just, so I just did the website myself because I was learning back in the days at Orotan time when I was doing the e-commerce. And it's so much things like like how to get the like no wonder people have to pay someone so much money just to be able to get your online up there. It's a lot of learning. It's a lot of learning, and it's not people like, oh, just open online, you just. And then what, you open online, you think you're going to just making $1 million? You're not, so it does have a lot of cost to be able to get there as well. I mean, you can do it gradually, and it's probably, it will take time to get to where you want to be, but yeah, it's good to start though. At the end of the day, it's better to just put your step, one step forward. Yeah. This is Tettenham because, so that's basically just what the concept is about. And so I also have in Shopee, which is the Indonesian Amazon.
Yeah. I have a question. So you and Sophie, you both have the experience from going from working for big corporations to running your own business, and then Sophie, you were showing the differences between, so the advantages as well. Marina, what do you think are the challenges that you see now that you run your own business? You used to have a really big budget,
that's right,
a structure, and now what do you think is challenging in being a founder and
yeah, the capital when you started is definitely always the thing that is hard. It's difficult with the capital, but you can always start small, and you need to do like Sophie before, like strategy. In a way, it's like budgeting. Like you know what your you have this many clothes you're gonna be produce, and you make the ROS, which is rate of sales. You're thinking how much you'll be able to sell that, how many of them. Obviously, pessimistically, not too optimistically, and you kind of have to then have a drive to, and how can I get to that minimum sales that I need to cover the expenses, obviously, for your business. So then that's the marketing, which the marketing I will need a lot of help in that sort of section. It's because it's just so important. It's how you will know, especially when you're online. I mean, no one will pass you unless you do something about it. You know, at least if you have store and you pick a right location and someone said you can do event or anything in your store and all those kind of stuff. So online it does a little bit more tricky, but yeah, it can happen. And I found these days Facebook too. I mean, back in the days it's a little bit better when you do Facebook ad. You do get quite a lot of engagement, and now it's getting less and less. It's almost like, what's going on? You know, like they need more money or something. I'm not sure, but it's just not as good as before. So that's the thing that I can't answer, because it's another different strategy again for the marketing and the social media part of it. But that's still part of the business where you will need help. Just like Sophie before said, you cannot be doing everything on your own. You gotta be able to knock on the door. You gotta hustle over it. You gotta have to ask people. You have to want to ask people and be vulnerable. You know, like that. I don't know in that part. How do I get there? So not to just keep everything to yourself. Yeah. So that's how. But what was the what was the question? Is that?
No, I think you answered. Yeah. What do you think is challenging?
Yeah, the capital is hard. Like it's difficult to find, and I do basically all the work all by myself. You know, from the sourcing the fabric, and then you know, like sort of designing pattern, and then talking to the tailor, and you know, and then try to do the campaign, try to do the photo, and all the rest of it with the 2 kids as well. So it's challenging, yeah. But I think that's part of the fun. And I always remember, why do I do this for? What is it for? What it is all about, you know? And then it take me back to the people that I wanted to help, you know, the people that, oh, you better get up, otherwise you said you want to do this, you know. If you don't, you know, you gotta do something. So you have to have a strong motivation and able to just keep going as well. And then when you design something, one day you're like, oh my God, I'm amazing. The next day it's like, oh my God, I'm so bad. No one really likes it. You know, it's just always up and down. But like any brand, even you see all big brands, sometimes you see, wow, this season is great. Next season, oh my God, what is that? You know, so it's not. It's okay. You're just gonna have to run with it and learn from it. Yeah. So and then continue if that's what you're passionate about. Yeah.
Any other question? Thank you so much, Marina.
Thank you.
All right. To conclude our Lady Boss, we have one last speaker, Oksana. She's the fashion coordinator for. She's the country coordinator for Fashion Revolution. It's a global movement which is advocating sustainability in fashion. It's important to know where our clothes are made and in which conditions, and she's going to share with us how we can be a bit more mindful about that. Thank you so much.
Hi everyone, I'm so privileged to be here with these incredible speakers, with this incredible audience. First of all, I want you all to sit comfortably. Like if you want to, you know, just a bit get your energy back. I want to know, like, who's here, maybe someone who has his or her own brand. Yeah, someone who want to start a brand. Yeah, marketing. Okay, good. So, yeah, I got so engaged in previous presentations, so I'm like, okay, this is my time. Well, probably some of you have heard about Fashion Revolution. Yeah, and I just, how do you do that? I never heard about it before. I started a course on sustainable fashion. Yeah. And I think like almost every youngster, I wanted to have my own brand. I was like, okay, I have a sister and she's designer, and I'm gonna be operations, I'm gonna help her and everything. And then I realized I just don't want to do it like just a simple brand. I want to make it sustainable, and this is where I got stuck. I was like asking a lot of questions like, how are you gonna be sustainable? Like, what's inside of that? What does it mean? And my idea of starting a brand just transformed into idea to start an NGO. So together with a few people in our country, we decided to create a movement. But it all started with this simple question. Have you ever asked yourself, like, who made your t-shirt? Do you know who made your t-shirt? Most probably you don't, and I never knew that before I started asking this question. And that's all right, because there is lack of information. The movement itself, Fashion Revolution, is an international movement, and it all started in 2013 after a very huge industrial disaster, which is like the 4th industrial disaster in history. There was Rana Plaza building with a lot of workers, garment workers. 1,100 people died, 2,500 people got injured, and this is not the first industrial disaster in fashion. And there were previously countless numbers, and unfortunately after that also. But this is the point where like-minded people just sat down together in fashion, like customers, designers, journalists. They sat together and they just decided that they want to change it. And basically what they wanted fashion to become inspiration, right? To become a place that can conserve and prevent environment, and also can lead people and value people over profit, which is hard because we are live in an economic system, right, where growth is very driven. And we're gonna talk about it a bit later. So there is a manifesto. You can all read it. I'm not gonna stop here. But the thing is, I really love this one, especially the last sentence. Fashion celebrates life. Fashion is beautiful, and it can help a lot and can elevate lives. And the thing is, how can we do that? We need to start somewhere. There's so many complicated things, and to realize how complicated they are, I have a story. So there is a Team Urban, maybe you've heard of him. This is a blogger, scientific, based blogger. He really likes to dig into stuff, and he has this incredible question. Imagine there is a super intelligent alien, and he comes to Earth and he says, all right, so I'm gonna take everything you have, everything humanity created, and it all gonna disappear. And I'm gonna give it back when you can create one working iPhone 13. So he just clicks with his fingers, and everything we created disappears. We are naked in the middle of nowhere, we don't have connection, we have nothing. And the only thing we need to do is to create one working iPhone 13. So how do you think, how long will it take humanity to create this one working iPhone 13? Any ideas? There is no right answer, by the way. So yeah, I'm gonna just dig a bit into it. So imagine if you want to create it, you basically, first of all, need some basics. You need to live, right? You need to eat, you need to sleep somewhere, so you need to create this first. Then you must probably want to communicate with people, so you need to create a system for communication somehow. Also, you need to mine things, you need sources to create something, right? Especially iPhone, which is a lot of small things inside of it. And for sure, there's going to be some communities, rebellious communities, that are going to destroy some things and stop you on the way. So the answer is, it's going to take tremendous amount of time to create one working iPhone 13. And this story just gives you this little hint on how interconnected our world is right now, and how improved our world is right now, and how like a lot of small details put into together to create something. And here we go with the fashion. So there is just a very oversimplified picture of cost breakdown of one t-shirt. So basically you can see that there are a lot of things that influence on the cost of one t-shirt. And also you can see that the labor here is, I think, that the least thing in this chart, right? So what Fashion Revolution asked is like, okay, if we want to increase the labor wage just to beat living wage, how much it will cost for a customer, right? And then it just like 1.57 euros. That is not much, right? But again, the question is that it's very complicated to do that because a lot of tiers involved in the supply chain. So even if you're a designer and if you want to make change, you need to go all the way down to realize how it's all made, who is involved, and there is a lot of stuff happening, and that is very hard. So the question is, why should I care, right? And the answer is not simple, and the answer is more, I would say, philosophical rather than, you know, like very, yeah, like something feasible. It's just like, I personally believe that we are all in the same boat. And this is not only me, there are a lot of very visionary people. Maybe you've heard of Hans Rosling. He wrote this incredible book, Factfulness. And he's basically saying that if you want to improve something, we need to start with small things. And if we can increase the level of low-income families, the level of their income, just a bit, this can have an incredible effect on the education of the next generation. And this can lead to very extreme changes in like industries these people are gonna work. And basically, we're all gonna benefit from those families in the low-income levels that are gonna have just a living wage or living wage, like above living wage salaries. And another thing that bothers me personally is human rights. So, especially right now with everything that's going on in the world, in my country, with our neighbor country, I feel extremely responsible to talk about that. So, when I first read Human Rights Declaration, I couldn't stop crying because in reality, there's so like a lot of violations about that, and sometimes we just don't know about that because we never read it. We just don't know like what is human rights. And as you can see here, basically living wage for a worker is like really basic things. Acceptable housing, food, essential needs. So, and then we here all very, I think, progressive. And the question is, all right, I know there is a problem. We can dig into that. I've got like researches. You can, if we can share the presentation, there's like sources you can check. But what can we do? For the fashion revolution, as long as I'm representing this collective mind organization, transparency is the answer. So, and the first step. It's not like, how you say, it's not something that's gonna solve everything, but it helps you to understand where the problem lies. So, transparency is the key. And then we also have this data right now that you can also get from trustable resources. This is like something I want you to take into account if you want to start any kind of businesses. This is not the representation only of fashion industry, but like overall what's happening in the world, because there are 60 million people working in the fashion industry, And what's very important, 80% of them are women. And what's even more interesting, based on the International Labour Organization report from 2019, they made this research in 9 Asian countries, and they figured out that there is a difference, a gap payment between women and men, which is 18% difference. And what's also important is that on the 25% of C-suite level positions are led by women, which is like crazy. 80% of women are working, right? And another thing, when we are talking about fashion, we cannot not talk about environment. And this is like, sometimes I don't want to open this door because there is no really exact data that can say how fashion impacts environment. You can only find some researches, even like McKinsey, they don't really disclose their data, like where they get this data. But there are some things that we can measure, and the impact is feasible, maybe not measured in a proper way, but we know that something is going on. And as Marina told you, that there are a lot of things going on after people buy stuff. We don't really know where our clothes gonna get after we use them. And you can see that this is actually a recent picture from, if I'm not mistaken, from Sudan. So yeah, this is where some of the clothes end up. And the thing is, here again, I'm just trying to very fast, move from one problem to another, and I don't want to put any pressure. I just wanted you to see opportunities how it could be solved. And we talked about transparency before that. There is like one thing that Fashion Revolution created. There is a transparency research which is made every year, and you can check it. It has like 250 indicators that help to see and check all the biggest brands' improvements during the year in the 5 spheres, but like basic spheres are environment and labor. And also you can see that there is improvement, which is incredible, which makes it like even more important to see if we're gonna get closer to solutions. But again, here there is one interesting kind of story that things are getting better but still bad. It doesn't mean we should stop doing things, right? Example, imagine there is a family and the kid gets very sick and he goes to the hospital, and then those parents been told that his state is very bad. And after a day, doctor comes back and he says, well, your kid has improvement, but it still has a very bad state. So for sure, parents not gonna take their kids back. They're gonna stay and they're gonna like work on him getting better. Here's also the thing is that things getting better but still bad. Like it helps us. This understanding helps us to create like strategies to realize like how we can use this data, this information, how we can move forward. And for sure, changes are very hard, especially when we speak about these big numbers like environmental impact. And that's why we and I encourage to have collaborations. And those collaborations is basically needed to have like systematic change. Probably you can collaborate with communities, like local communities and artisans, yeah, so you can support their work. Probably you can cooperate with government, maybe you can create certification, maybe you're gonna have ideas about how to create workers' union in your like brands, in your company. There are a lot of collaborations that can happen, which is also incredible. Again, this is just like a little disclaimer. All those numbers I took from resources that are, I think like this is Fashion United, yeah, Global Fashion Industry Statistics. I just use them to show that yes, industry is like incredibly huge, and it feels like small brands can't really move this industry because it doesn't have that much tools to do that. Also, there are a lot of labels right now around fashion which are not data proven, but still customers, a lot of like people, especially very proactive people who are like afraid of being greenwashed. They really want to connect with the company, but they have a lot of criteria for like this connection, for this trust to build with the company, especially with Generation Z and Millennials. There are also some surveys done by Fashion Revolution, and you can check that too. Unfortunately, they've made it only in Europe, but still pretty interesting insights that youth is ready to pay a bit more for products that can be that are made in a sustainable way, but also that are taking responsibility for their workers. So yeah, all these things can put a lot of pressure on small brands, on medium brands, on companies. And yeah, you can take a lot of reports. They're like, I don't know, maybe I just found 20 reports while I was preparing this presentation, and all of them have a lot of data, and like you can see it and dig into that. But the thing is that maybe it's not very easy to understand again how I, as a customer or small brand, can use this data. So what I want you to do is not, yeah, the first step is to ask questions, right? And this can lead to incredible changes. I've been working with designers and brands back in Russia, and the thing is, those questions just like provoke you to find ways and to be innovator and to be visionary in like fashion industry. So the first thing is about certifications, which is maybe some kind of basics. I also got some links so you can check what else you can find there. Another one is like workers, as I told previously, like workers' unions. Can you do that? Can you organize or help to organize that? How you can ensure that people have their like decent work and decent conditions for work, not only maybe in your company, but also like with your suppliers. How can you do that? Do you have any like contacts? Can you maybe visit them or like I don't know, video chat, whatever you can have in your mind. And also like collaborations, as I told previously, for sure there are customers with whom you can communicate about changes you make. And also probably you have to ask yourself like, okay, how can I be sure that I'm not greenwashing? Which is also a very big part right now of like marketing. And a lot of customers, back again in Russia, prefer to buy secondhand rather than brand, because in secondhand they're sure that it wasn't made, made by someone. They just know it's like a returning cycle, which is in most media drives, like most media drives second in Russia because it's kind of more sustainable. But you don't have data on that again, but customers read that. So that's the question, like how you communicate with your customers so that they can know you really, like, you can trust this brand. And then another thing is about environment, which is again a very, very hard topic to discuss, but still there are ways, like alternatives, alternative materials. Yes, they are pricey, if it's the right word for that, but still maybe you can find something alternative. Upcycling, there are like a lot of leftovers or dead stock that you can use for your another like products that you're gonna do. And yeah, this is the things that basically we use for our movement and for the Fashion Revolution Week, which is happening from 19th to 24th April. And what's happening with this thing is that we ask brands to print or to write down somewhere this "I've made your clothes" thing and post it and just tell your story. Just tell how you've made it. Show people who made it. Start this discussion, start this communication with customers. And another thing is that there are a lot of ways to work on these cycles of supply chain. Like maybe there are some ideas of how to implement this return, clothes return to your store. Maybe you can suggest like repair initiative, so people can come back and ask you like, can you make it more like, fit for me, something like this. Or maybe you just can collaborate with communities, so you can again empower your workers, educate your workers, help them to develop. Also you can communicate with the NGOs, and there are a lot of things happening, for example swap parties. So basically this is a party where you invite like your friends, your family, someone you care about, then you just put stuff you don't want to wear anymore and they get their stuff, and then you just exchange it. And that's basically could be a very fun way of showing how like you care about what's happening with clothes after people buy them. And this is basically a very big picture overview of what Fashion Revolution does. And if you wanna discuss, or if you wanna like talk about sources, or if you wanna talk about data, I'm so happy to do that, because again, I'm still into that, I'm still learning, I'm still in the process, and I'm very excited to share what I've already learned. And you can for sure contact me in any way you want to do it. So, yep, that's it from my side. And
I wanted to ask you actually, I love that you give really practical, simple ideas also, like you can do like swap bodies, it's something like that anyone can be doing. And I wanted to know like how do you work with brands directly, retailers, or even at higher level, if you have impact on legislation, especially after what happened in Dhaka. I mean, I guess it's more like it is a global movement, but how does fashion revolution impact legislation or retailers? How do you?
so after what happened in Rana Plaza, Fashion Revolution was a part of this legal binding contract between brands. So 200 brands signed this contract, and 38,000 inspections happened during like a year. And yeah, for sure there was like 1,600 producers, like manufacturers, who basically changed the way they worked and improved conditions. This is one of the sides how Fashion Revolution works. But another thing with brands is basically this Fashion Revolution Transparency Index, because this is its focus is basically to improve the data disclosure, not like about profit or something, but about every tier supplier that they have, because this helps realize what kind of manufacturer is involved in the production of the product and item, and then Fashion Revolution can contact this producer or manufacturer, again create inspections just to see what's going on and how these conditions could be improved. So this is the basic thing that Fashion Revolution doing. But again, there is a very big creative part working with communities, engaging like small businesses, having like open studios where people can gather together, find different techniques to work with the used materials, and find ways how to, close the loop of their product development. Like they also have workshops. For sure, you can find information about every single sphere Fashion Revolution is doing, but I really encourage you to start with the small, because when I got to Fashion Revolution site, I was like overwhelmed. There are a lot of things and statistics and data, and you're like, where should I start? So maybe the best thing is just like first ask yourself, like, where from my clothes, like who made them, okay? And maybe if you want to go deeper, for example, I was just walking by the streets and just going to the stores, and I was like, hi, how do you work with your garment workers? And so for sure, like usually store managers, they don't know, but some of them are like telling me how they work with communities, and I'm like, oh my god, this is incredible. And me as a customer, I do appreciate this thing. And again, with my friends, sometimes we just discuss how we can, I don't know, share some items between us, right? This is fun and also very sustainable. So there are some small things. And then after that, for sure, I'm like pro data person. So if you wanna like learn what's really going on in the industry, for sure there are like resources to check big statistics and then local. The local statistics, I know that there are like foundations. I'm not sure about Indonesia, unfortunately, but I'm sure there are like big representatives, like International Labour Organization, which is represented in every country. So if they have statistics here, you can check it out. Yeah, so then you just dig into the data. And then after that, you already have insights because you tried something yourself, then you like got data, and then you're like, oh wow, okay, maybe I can do, I don't know, my shop with innovative materials, or I can help businesses to find important data on sustainability, or maybe I can help to create some measurement that measures not only profit, but measures my impact. Like, and we're gonna show it on our site or something like that, so you just use your creativity. Yeah.
Do you know if there are a lot of brands that start working with blockchain for that transparency?
Actually, no. This is a very good question. Never heard of that, but yeah.
I think I know the brand that they have using blockchain to tell them this is where my fabric coming from, so that it's actually open that there are different things. So I'm just wondering if it's already common.
That's great. I know, like in Russia, it's starting to have like item passport. So this item passport is a QR code. So every customer can use QR and then see each and every step where it came from. But it's not that popular yet. So yeah, it's basically, I think, like the alternative to this item passport.
Another question?
Thank you so much.
So thank you everyone for attending Lady Boss. I wanted this event to be showing different perspectives on fashion, and I think we heard a lot of inspiring stories. We saw an aspect of how big brands and corporations are working. We saw the transition from going from a big brand to starting your own business. And also I think it's important to think about, yes, the workers. So again, that link between big corporations to the people really at the source of fashion. And I hope this was inspiring for everyone. I hope that it's giving you food for thought. And I hope to see you again at the next Lady Boss event. Thank you so much.